Welcome. Not yet. My health bars were off. Welcome back to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map site Delta. The spawning right here in the top left hand corner, playing with the green Zerg drones. We have none other than Reynor, a previous world champion of StarCraft 2. And the same can be said for his opponent. He's not the green Zerg, he's the blue Terran, but he is a previous world champion of StarCraft 2. We're looking at Oliveira's main command center. This particular series was recently played in Bulgaria during the BGE. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. Sadly for me, hopefully this is not a problem for you, but sadly for me, I do already know who ends up winning this series. Yeah. I spoiled myself. This particular match is the semi-finals of that tournament. And, well, I know who was in the grand finals. So I accidentally spoiled myself. But as per usual, journey before destination. Strength before weakness. Life before death. Whatever the other ideals are, I don't remember. It's been a little bit since I read the Stormlight archive, but it is important that we enjoy the games rather than think about the end result only. Anyways, these guys are obviously ridiculously good. Reynor has been super strong lately. Of course, he spent a bunch of time in Korea. He had a couple of... I think he had a couple of disappointing results. At the very least, he would say that himself. But right now, it seems like that time spent in Korea is really starting to work out for him. He is, yeah, playing incredibly well. And really the only player that's been capable of, for example, taking games and even series against Clem. Clem is looking like he is on another level right now. And luckily here for Reynor, well, Oliveira is another Terran player. Main problem, I guess, for Oliveira, or at least for Reynor, when it comes to facing off against Oliveira, is that Oliveira's primary Zerg practice partner is Cyril. And Cyril is, he's alright, he's pretty good at the game. Apparently he doesn't win a whole lot in practice, but he's been winning a lot more than he used to when they first started playing against one another. So yeah, there's no denying that Oliveira is probably getting the very best practice that you could ever have in this particular matchup. And obviously the man is ridiculously good. Now we had a pool first opener here from Reynor, which is pretty uncommon. No SCV scout here from Oliveira, and that right from the get-go is going to create a little bit of drama. Good control right here. Ooh, nice snipe as well on one of those Zerglings. Command center on the low ground is certainly not going to go down, but it's going to draw out those SCVs. 2 of them have gone down for now. Reaper has come all the way back. Marine will stay alive. I don't necessarily like this opener too much for Reynor. Yeah, he got 2 SCVs, but he had to make, well, 6 Zerglings for it. And if this would have been an SCV scout, right? If Oliveira would have seen that this was a pool first, the Reaper would have stuck at home, and at that point, you really don't get any damage done whatsoever. A third command center immediately fired up here too by Oliveira, who's now assuming here that the Zerg is going to be playing a macro game, even though he hasn't seen much. This is all relatively standard, of course, from Reynor, who also delayed his own third base. Well, in favor of that aggression, we have a Roach War now at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. That is very quick. It's at the front, so technically it's very easy to scout. But in my many years of cheesing Terrans as Zerg, I have learned that the most obvious blind spot for Terran players is the most obvious location. If you hide the Roach Warren over here, if you hide a Baneling Nest behind the main mineral line, it's certainly a cheese. They will always put you on a cheese if they scout it. But if they see the Roach Warren as part of the wall off, they're like, yeah, no, it's fine. Nothing to worry about. Usually hiding in plain sight is actually not a bad play when it comes to these specific build orders against, well, not just Terran, also against Protoss. I don't think, though, that this is going to be an all-in here from Reynor. Maybe he's going to do some follow-up aggression. There is no Banshee or anything along those lines yet, but yeah, I've got a feeling that we will be seeing one of those in just a moment, considering the cloaking upgrade has indeed been started up. I think this will probably just be a bunch of roaches for base defense, although, yeah, 6 is kind of a lot. I think we'll probably see them at the very least march across the map and give the Terran a little bit of a tickle. I'm assuming, yeah, we will just see drone production on the back of this. There is no Zergling speed. All of this is just off of a single gas. Lair right now on the back of this too for Reynor. Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a walk. We've got some roaches after some Zerglings. There are still Hellions going around, and the Queens will be forced to push those back, but by the time those slow roaches get across the map, the Banshee will be, well, available, and that's going to make the base defense pretty easy. Reynor mostly just hoping he can scare his opponent a bit here with this aggression, it seems, but Yeah, just decides to keep these units at home for now. Alright, so we've had a little bit of aggression. We've had a little bit of defense, but ultimately this is both players ready to play a macro game. Neither player really committing to anything hyper aggressive yet. They're just checking whether or not the opponent is paying attention. A little bit of a skill check from time to time has never hurt anybody. Hellions going around the site though, and they actually managed to pass by those roaches. This is a pretty significant blunder here from Reynor, and this could certainly cost him the game. This is the downside of not playing speedlings in the earlier stages of the game. Even if you are out of position with speedlings, obviously you can get back in position real quick. 7 drones is very acceptable as far as losses go, especially if he's going to be able to get all of those Hellions. But this is still more damage than Reynor was hoping to take. Yeah, Queens are plugging the ramp, so it's going to be difficult for these Hellions, these speedy cars, to try and escape, but a lot of lost mining time. And honestly, also a significant mental hit. I know for a fact that Reynor will be very frustrated about this sort of thing. Even though he can certainly recover from this position, it is very, very annoying. When you have all of the tools to defend, it's just that the tools that you have are in the wrong position, right? So the roaches were hanging out over here. Hellions took the easy road around. There was an overlord for vision, I'm sure. So that should have never happened in the first place. And it shows that Oliveira is more than ready to jump at any opportunity that you give the man. He wasn't expecting to really run into the opponent's main base, but he gave it a shot, and well, would you look at that? Managed to get 15 workers killed just like that. For units that, generally speaking, the Hellion and the Hellions and the Reaper, they generally speaking fall off pretty fast as the game progresses. 4th command center, very quickly here as well for Oliveira. So he is looking to just continue playing macro. Gets a queen as well, by the way, with the 2 Banshees. He's hunting for one more. Hoping to get the, oh, he's gonna get it, I think. I could have gotten it if he decided to go back around, but he didn't want to sack these units. Alright, fair enough. So this is a 4th command center before the 2nd factory. We will see factory production double up here momentarily. We'll probably see a tech lab on this bad boy too. So the siege tanks can be produced 2 at a time. Against the Zerg player who's going mostly a roach-based army composition for now, siege tanks are, well, obviously phenomenal for base defense. We have the armory starting up at the appropriate time, so he can go straight into the +2/+2 upgrades. This is a beautiful game so far by Oliveira. Not really making any mistakes. Macro-wise or micro-wise, he is playing this incredibly cleanly. Not taking any unnecessary gambles. You can tell here that Reynor is still playing exceptionally good too, because the creep spread is, well, it is significant. This is one of those things to take note of, because if you give him a couple more minutes, he will goop up the entire map. One of the nice things for both of these players is that they're not really limited as far as their APM goes. Plenty of speed for both of them. Oliveira already moving on over with a 4th command center though at the 8-minute mark, so this is going well. +2/+2 fired up, +1 for the siege tanks. The siege tank attacks also started up. We already have a hive though for Reynor. So Reynor opened up with quick Zerglings. Pretty fast roaches on the back of it too. But essentially what we're doing right now is a don't kill me strategy until I get up towards hive tech. So his plan is to try and just simply defend every attack from the Terran and then eventually push across the map himself. I'm assuming we're going to see Vipers. We could even see Ultralisks, to be honest. But this is a very fast hive, considering the strategy here from the Zerg. One cheeky little Ling, being annoying, gets a kill, fair enough. But he now also knows that his opponent has already gotten a very quick 4th command center up and going. Now, we have seen many long games of TVZ as of late. And it seems like something that over the last couple months, Zerg players at the highest level, they're trying to avoid playing the late game here. They're trying their very best to try to end the game before the match goes the distance. Terran has been incredibly oppressive with Liberators, but also Ghosts and just general map positioning. When the map pool was first introduced, the strategies were already viable, but Terrans didn't really know exactly how to play the maps. The longer that the map pool is around, the better the late game seems to become as well for Terrans. But, ooh, 4 Vipers, that is more than what we normally see. Normally we have about 2, maybe 3 if it's a crazy day, but 4 does seem like quite a lot. Reynor though, going just full Viper here together with upgrades. So it's going to be Roach Ravager, Ling Bane. into 4 Vipers. Look at his siege tank spread, though. Woo! Lovely little spready right here by Oliveira. Yeah, good luck attacking into that, Reynor. I mean, he's gonna need energy on those Vipers, and they are gathering it right now. Blinding Cloud is absolutely massive. Oliveira will certainly be able to kill that base. There's a huge Zergling run by, which is a clear indicator that Reynor does not feel like he can actually engage on the other side of the map at home. But you know what? There was a big chunk of the Terran army stuck on the other side, so 16 SCVs have already gone down. Oliveira, though, at this point is smelling blood in the water. He started up a Ghost Academy, but I don't think that plan is really viable anymore. He needs to deal significant amounts of damage with this attack of his right over here. Obviously, in the meantime, this has created a lot of time for those Vipers. Vipers, they know where the siege tanks are. The Zerglings have just now spotted them. So blinding clouds, yes, they are going to be landed on top of all of those units, effectively reducing them to melee ranged only. But obviously, siege tanks can't fire at melee range. And Reynor, well, suddenly appears with a huge army over here. Brilliantly played by the Italian Zerg. That run by really allowed him a significantly better spot. And in the meantime, he's starting up another base over here on the left side of the map. This is the exact opposite side of the map of where Oliveira is currently located. So it'll be difficult for him to really position his army to pressure that anytime soon. Ghosts are coming, though. The question is mostly, can Reynor immediately capitalize on this advantage that he's created for himself? Will he be able to actually push for the win? Or is he going to take his time and try to play the macro game? There's a couple different ways that Zerg can try and approach this. Either you can try and attack. You can try and see if you can win the game right here, right now. Just try and overwhelm the Terran player. Very dangerous because, well, this is still obviously defender's advantage. The second alternative, or the second option rather, the alternative is to try and deny any future expansions. So maybe give the Terran player 4 bases and let him sit on 4 bases. That's gonna run out by like minute 15, maybe 16, 17 or so. And at that point, Terran is gonna be forced to either step onto creep or to take a move on another base. So I think we'll probably see Reynor trying to deny any of those new expansions, or maybe he's just gonna sit back and continue banking up on this lead. Gonna be a Hydra then now. +3/+3 coming up as well for the Zerg units. We don't have a second starport yet, if I'm not mistaken. No, just a single starport for now. So this will not be a quick transition here for Oliveira into Ghosts together with Liberators and then also Siege Tanks. But Ghosts are going to be quite good. This is, however, one of those setups where Ghosts are not necessarily amazing. They're still good, of course, against those Vipers. EMP is still a very powerful tool. But this is one of those spots where you don't really want to get carried away, making too many of them either. Now, Oliveira may not have had the memo that he fell behind. He's making 3 command centers at once. He's creating choke points all over the map to make it difficult for the Zerg player to engage. Generally speaking, we don't see Terrans do this until they are fully maxed out. But Oliveira's thinking, nah, it's okay. We will just defend at home instead using my positioning. And you know what? He may be onto something. We're going to have another gigantic choke point here. Good snipes! Oh, 3 Vipers go down just like that. That is the perfect catch right there for Oliveira, who starts up another CC. Okay. This is that moment in this matchup where Terrans start building up the Iron Bank. The Iron Bank has infinite money. Generally speaking, if Terrans can go up to about 8 orbital commands or so, they can, well, land mules, which is really nice, but they can also temporarily disable the fog of war, right? You can just scan all over the map and figure out exactly what the Zerg player is doing at that point. Neural Parasite coming up for Reynor. One of the very best counters to the Ghost is the Ghost. Burrowing the Infestor underground, then knurling it, which you can use from Burrow, knurling one of the Ghosts and casting that dreaded EMP spell on the rest of the Ghosts is a very easy way to quickly get rid of them. Matter of fact, drop. He's gonna get shut down. I'm a little surprised we didn't see Reynor commit a bit more after he managed to get so much damage done, but it was probably the right decision. He's probably been in that spot several times before and it just never really worked out for him, but I think he could have tried to deny or slow down some of this economy growth from Oliveira quite a bit. Like, look at the banks right now. Well, maybe this is the time. Maybe he's saying, okay, I'm giving you 5 bases, but no more than that. One of the command centers is going to get cancelled. Corrosive Bowels will indeed seal that deal, but it looks like Oliveira is still managing to secure another position. We do have a Nidus network coming up. Hydra then already finished 2. So this is very much so a unit composition for the Zerg that is anti-ghost. The sad thing here for Reynor is that these are all mid-game units. So Hydra, Ling, Bane, Roach, Ravager. I guess the only late-game unit that he's got are those Vipers. But this is a very mid-gamey army, and the reason for that is simply because the Ghost is good against all the other late-game options. So Reynor doesn't really want to take those chances. He doesn't really want to be taking any risks here. He's also not giving himself the opportunity though, right? So there are these moments where suddenly showing up with a whole lot of Ultralisks can be a really good choice. But so far, apparently he's saying, I'm going to be the Swarm and I will gobble up as many resources as possible. And this is another alternative for the Zerg. There's quite a few ways that you can play this. Look at the amount of bases on the minimap right now that we see from the Zerg. Reynor is gobbling up everything. Whoa, even kills the planetary fortress over here in the choke point. In the meantime, we have a lot of pew-pew-pews going up right here on the left side of the map. Obviously, yeah, the roaches can be sacrificed here and replaced with better units. 114 Zerglings on the production tab right now. But Reynor has taken about 75% of the map. Maybe 70-ish% of the map. Quick math. Oliveira is stuck in his little quadrant of bases. But then again, with this amount of expansions though, Reynor, yeah, I like this. He is trying to mine the outermost ones first. So he's trying to make sure that he mines the most far away expansions first. The ones that maybe Oliveira is thinking about mining if the game goes long on, or goes on for long enough. So trying his best to just gobble up as much as possible. Okay. Infestors are being added into the mix. God, dude, this is a Zerg army composition that is supposedly countering ghosts, but the ghosts seem to be doing just fine. I love the transition here as well from Oliveira into Widowmines. It's actually quite delicate, making that switch from Siege Tank into Widowmine production, right, and getting the correct balance of Siege Tanks versus Widowmines is really not that easy, but look at that. We have a factory transition right now. So Oliveira starts up a full-on switch after getting a whole lot of bio and after going into ghosts. Ultimately, we want to end up with what seems to be Ghost Mech. Infernal Pre-Igniter is upgrading. We have a lot of aggression in the meantime in the bottom left-hand corner, but there's also Zerglings on the side of the Terran. At this point in time, both players can just kind of make whatever they like. SCV damage at this point is not that big of a deal though, because obviously Oliveira can just drop some mules if he's really running low. He's not really using mules at this point, just mining off of his SCVs instead, and apparently we're even doing a forward command center here. He's taking care of 2 of those bases on the left side in the bottom left corner. Apparently now he's got his eyes set on this expansion here in the far top right. Marauder there gets blown up by the Widowmine itself. Widowmine's dealing friendly fire across the board. But the most important thing here for Ollie is that he's holding on. He sees the Infestor. Lovely stuff right here by Oliveira, man. I'm hard-pressed to see the Terran player here making any mistakes. This is some wonderful gameplay here by Oliveira. Has he made any blunders? Like, have I seen any significant mistakes? I guess that Zergling run-by when he first went across the map, and maybe this attack right over here. He's not quite ready for a lot of these pushes from Reynor, but these are also extremely expensive attacks from the Zerg. And if you look at the banks right now, not only is Oliveira ahead in supply, he's got a lot more money at his disposal, plus he's mostly done with the command center building. He doesn't really need a whole lot more of them. So he can very quickly, I mean, maybe he adds on a few more, I don't really mind that, but he can very quickly replenish his economy. Reynor right now is trying to see if he can send wave after wave of Zerg unit right now. Apparently, with Ghosts and Mech, we are also gonna go into the tactical nuke. Not something we see too much anymore in 2024. Planetary Fortress right over here. This is right outside of the 4th base of the Zerg player. Planetary Fortress in the middle of the map in the important choke points. You'll love to see it. This little attack over here from Oliveira also goes exceptionally well. These Marines and Marauders are sacrificed, but they will get the value. Another couple units over here trying to do whatever they can. But the Hellion numbers are growing. The same can be said right now for the siege tanks. I would love to see continued upgrading right here on the mechanical units. The armor upgrades for mech are not quite as important, but still very, very nice, of course. Tactical nuke, deployed right over here in the middle of the map. This is mostly just a distraction. So there's nothing here, but it's gonna force Reynor to look around, right? So Reynor doesn't have this gigantic mark on the minimap. All he sees is a tiny little red dot. This is just here as an APM limiter, which is exactly what you want to do against somebody like Reynor. Make him frantically look around for 75 minerals, 75 gas. Probably worth it. Oliveira's on the hunt, though. He's taking care of a lot of those expansions. Base in the bottom left-hand corner is looking quite alright. No mining there yet, because he doesn't have the work account, and he will slowly take up some of those expansions instead. Yeah, the longer that this goes on, the more I'm liking it for Oliveira. I'm not even really sure what you do right now as Reynor, to be honest. Like, Reynor still has money in the bank. He's gonna try and see if he can collapse on top of all of these Terran units. The Ghosts are on the run, but they do a lot of damage, actually. Unlike all the other spellcasters in the game, their DPS, specifically against light units, is not to be underestimated. Zerglings around or not, those Ghosts. I mean, let me put it like this. The Sentry and the High Templar, they can take a little bit of maybe a bit of training from the Ghost as to how to deal damage as a spellcaster, because the Ghost does not mess around. At this point, it seems like Reynor's best chance is to try and get a lucky fungal and then maybe collapse all over that army. Maybe a neural parasite to shut down the Ghosts with their own EMP spell. Oliveira not mixing any late game Ravens. I can't possibly cast the late game TVZ and not bring up the Raven situation, but I mean, it looks like the Infestor may have already died. Maybe it's scurried away. Well, it's right over here. He knows where it is, and he knows that he can scan ahead of time. If he pre-splits some of his units, it shouldn't be a massive problem. Obviously, those missile turrets are also detectors. Hellbat's trying to be annoying. We have another Hellion run by now in the top right-hand corner. This is dominant gameplay right here from Oliveira. It seems like Reynor has been in good positions in this game, but never one where I'm thinking, wow, this is going really well. The thing is, Oliveira has been improving his unit composition for the last, I don't know, 10 minutes. Whereas Reynor has been on the same unit composition for a very long time. Right? None of the units he can really add, other than maybe an Infestor or two, would make his army substantially better. So what he's trying to do in this game is get that massive economy going and then really swarm the Terran all over the map. But in the meantime, while that fight is going on, Oliveira is killing an expansion right there from the Zerg. Oliveira still has money in the bank too. He can remax once more. He's got expansions for days. He can land some mules if he really needs money. Whereas Reynor's bank is starting to drain up. Yeah, generational wealth in StarCraft, man. Maybe the early game units, they brought in a lot of the income, but it is not going to be enough for these third generation Zergs. Game number 2. We find ourselves on Oceanborn. Brilliantly played game right there from Oliveira. Start to finish, pretty much close to perfection. Dare I say it? Maybe that was even better than Clem. I don't know if you can say that. I would say that Clem's micro is just on another level, right? So Clem is really good at keeping things around for a long time. But Oliveira is not far off. Like, if we consider Clem to be the 100% perfect Terran at this point in time, right? Which obviously that's not really a thing. I would say that Oliveira is probably at like 99%. He is extremely close. Which is interesting to me, because before he won IEM Katowice last year, and before he became the world champion of StarCraft 2, I think that in my... Okay, I think... How do I word this nicely? In my mind, at the time, before he became the world champion, Oliveira was really good, but he was kind of like a top 25 player, right? Certainly somebody to look out for. Maybe the very best non-Korean Terran at the time, but still... not quite somebody who I would count as the tournament victor, right? And maybe all that Oliveira really lacked there for a little bit was self-confidence. Because it really did seem like he didn't believe himself that he could win the tournament. Like, he kept going on and on and on about just being a normal man and everybody could do it if he can do it and all that. But ever since winning the World Cup last year, he has been on another level. And honestly, you could make a very similar argument as well for Clem. Clem also, historically, maybe doubting himself a little bit at the offline events. Ever since winning, one of them, he's been on an absolute tear. And then looking so incredibly dominant during the EWC this year. Not really losing any games. Only losing 2 games in total. During the entire tournament. Now, who do you think he lost to? The man right over here, in green. It's a small circle. It's a very small circle. Reynor, I don't think Reynor actually ever has had any real confidence issues when it comes to playing StarCraft. Yeah, it is an interesting discussion to have, but it certainly helps when you feel like you can win, right? Like, if you feel like deep down in your bones you might not actually be good enough, that is certainly going to hinder your gameplay. And there's some players out there that have never struggled with that. Do you think Dark ever has self-confidence issues? Do you think he's ever struggling with how... No! Dark has never struggled with that, I don't think. I would like to think that Dark, when he first installed the game, he was like, no, I'm the best. He didn't even do his placement matches yet, you know, like, I don't really even played any matches, but he probably immediately assumed that he was going to be the very best. Like, no one ever was. And to catch those tournament wins was the real test. And to get better at the game was his cause, you know? Anyways, what do we have right over here in game number 2? Well, a very normal build. A very normal build for a very normal man. Triple command center into a good old starport here. A very popular build. In the meantime, for Reynor, this was a hatch into a pool. Yeah, so he doesn't have quite as much gas. No Zergling speed yet. So once more, we're gonna go for a quick Roach Warren. Didn't really work out that well for him in the previous game, to be honest. Like, the idea behind going Roach Warren is that, excuse me, you don't take any damage in the early game, right? Like, that's the entire goal with playing Roaches. Try to mitigate as much damage as possible, because they're not really a unit to go all in with. Technically, you could do Zergling speed, and then you can rush a lot of units across the map, right? It's possible, but it's not very popular in this matchup right now. It's very much so a stepping stone towards better units. Now, what is the better unit? Generally speaking, Ling Bane. Problem with Ling Bane openers, though, is that it's a little vulnerable to certain pushes from the Terran. Like, Hellbat all-ins can be quite difficult to hold, even just standard old marine attacks. But you do have to put your Roaches in the right position, right? So Zergling's obviously much faster. Hellion run-bys are still dangerous, like we saw in the previous game. It is once more going to be a round of Roaches, and then continued drone production. So I don't think Reynor really is, gonna go all in with this. We have an SCV, or sorry, we have an SCV. We have an Overlord Scout over here inside of the main base. Reynor's gonna see the green light inside of the tech lab that is attached to the starport. Nope, he didn't even see it. Oliveira trying to play a mind game, because there's no way. You gotta cancel that, Ollie. There's no way he actually means to go for Interference Matrix. It's a relatively cheap upgrade. Okay, he canceled it just now. Not the end of the world, even if he accidentally lets it finish. But he did cancel it. The Roaches have come across the map, though. Yeah, and this was a quick medevac, so if you would have gotten just regular good old Banshees... If Oliveira just played regular good old Banshees straight up, without first making a medevac and then a Viking or whatever, right? Like, if he would have gone whatever, this would have been much more comfortable for him. A Banshee will ultimately be popping out. And it will obviously aid in killing these Roaches. I wonder if Reynor should jump this. He doesn't really know exactly how many units there are, but I think Reynor is not quite maximizing the damage here. He's once more forced to deal with a Hellion run-by over at the third base! Oh god. Good crisis management here by the Italian Zerg. Okay. 6-7 drones for that many units, getting most of the Roaches back home. Acceptable, I still feel like he could have killed more SCVs here in the meantime, though. Well, as the dust settles, we've got ourselves a third command center. We've got ourselves a good old fourth hatch. A fourth command center is building inside of the main base, and I'm getting a little bit of deja vu from the previous game. This is all looking very similar, with slightly smaller, yeah, so some slight small adjustments, but overall, a very similar game to what we saw previously. So my question is, will we see any real adjustments here from Reynor? So what are his late game options, right? So let's talk about that for a second, because what exactly can you do as Zerg? So, option 1, Ultralisks. Ultras have a problem in the sense that they get countered really hard by ghosts. Liberators are good against them, even Marauders are quite good against them. So Ultras, usually in 2024, more or less a timing attack. Brood Lords barely deal any damage. Terran has a lot of good counters against Brood Lords. Thors, for example, are great. Vikings are great, but again, Ghosts are also really, really good against Broods. There is a time and place for Brood Lords, but it's not really an early late game unit. It's very much so like a late game unit. Next up, we would have the Lurker. I would say that that is probably the most viable unit in the late game for Zerg, but also something that once more gets killed by Liberators and Ghosts. There's a little bit of a dance there where if you deal enough damage to the Terran player early on, the transition towards late game for Terran is obviously delayed because they need to, well, try and play catch up. In that sort of game, Lurkers can be quite good, but with this setup here from Reynor, that's not the case. I don't think he's gonna get there in time, and it means that, yeah, Lurkers are also off the table. That means that anything that he can really do at this point would be Spellcaster related, and the Spellcaster for Zerg also get countered by the Ghost. So notice a bit of a pattern, right? So we will probably see Vipers again, right? So Vipers can get EMP'd, they can get sniped, but they are an interesting choice. Now this is something I was wondering about. Can we still do anything with like a late game Muta switch? Is this Brood Lords or is it Mutas? I honestly can't tell at this rate. Maybe it's Mutalisks. But generally, whenever we see Mutas in 2024, it is something that is done early on to get those upgrades rolling quickly. If this is going to be Mutas, they're going to be very late. It very much so, in my mind though, is up to the Zerg player to try and deal with the Terran. Because Oliveira will certainly be happy to play a similar game as we did previously. I like this position for him better than the one that we saw in game number 1 of this series. There's the Ghost Academy coming up. Ghosts, by the way, also are good against Mutas. So, you know, yeah, take that for what it's worth, I guess. They're kind of, Ghosts are, yeah, they're a little too well-rounded in my mind. Adrenal Glands coming up. So what is the Spire for? This could be Greater Spire. I think it might just be Greater Spire. This could also be him just preparing for the potential to mix in, for example, Corruptors, or to go after some of the Medivacs and the Vikings and all that. Maybe... No, it's a Greater Spire. I don't like Brood Lords at all. Well, this is gonna be Brood Lords. I guess it can work if Oliveira does absolutely zero scouting. There will be this one moment, I think, where Reynor is suddenly gonna be able to appear with like 10 Brood Lords. And there will be that one moment where Terran might be caught off guard. But at this point, Oliveira has plenty of energy available on the command centers. He could always be sparing a scan on either the main base or the natural expansion of the Zerg if he's really concerned. And if this gets scouted, we can just start up a couple units in advance and life will be really good. So this is a bit of a coin flippy thing here, right here from Reynor, but maybe it can work out. He's once again trying to gobble up as much of the map as possible. We'll probably see this base momentarily too. 10 minutes into the game, right? Look at the mini-map right now. This is a Zerg player who's developing fast, but Oliveira is giving his opponent all the time that he really needs. I love this setup here. Planetary, surrounded by a couple of... Alright, sorry, you didn't like it? Fair enough. Couple supply depots. +1 air weapons coming up too. So Reynor is maybe just preparing for like a late game Brood Lord transition? Just with Broods that have upgrades right from the get-go? I'm not sure. Yeah, it is sometimes nice to remember the time slot that you're in a game, because these players are fast. Blinding Clouds going up once more. Roach Ravager, Ling Bane, couple queens in the mix too, because the creep is this far forward. This is a scary attack right here from Reynor, and one of the very best timings that we see from Zergs in 2024. Right as 2-2 is done, right as Adrenal Glance is done. Oliveira, though, yeah, he trades out units. But he holds here just fine, right? And that is the most important part right here for the Terran. He's already been making the command center transition. That attack right there was good for the Zerg, but it's also the scariest moment in this game so far here for Oliveira. And Oliveira held that easy peasy. Lovely split right there on that Zergling. Great job right there by the Terran, or by the Zerg player right there. We have +3 fired up. We definitely also do want to see the +3 armor upgrade for those Marines and Marauders here. And the Ghosts. Because what the Ghosts need is a little bit more armor. That could be a blunder, though, for Oliveira. If he doesn't fire that up soon, it is something that is very valuable. Now, he's busy fighting over here, trying to get rid of some of that creep in this area of the map. The Brood Lords are coming. Spore Crawlers are building here, too. This is an entirely different play right here from Reynor. So Reynor is saying, yo, everything I did in the previous game, none of it really worked out favorably for me in the long run. So we will try and change the strategy altogether. I haven't seen Brood Lords in quite a long time, and it's because the unit is kind of bad. Maybe not Tempest level of bad, but it's not far off. So we're gonna push the Spore Crawlers together with the Queens. There's Vipers and Infestors here too, so these are all the 3 spellcasters that Zerg has. Viper, Infestor, Queen. And then I guess the Broodlords to rain everything from a distance. Thor immediately fires up. Vikings are also coming in immediately. Additional Ghost production. I love the Infernal Pre-Igniter upgrade here. Hellbats with Blue Flame are really good at killing the little Broodlings that are dropped on the ground. Tactical Nuke also, once more, on the production tab right here for Oliveira. Vikings trying to find a long way around. I'm not exactly sure where you lads are going. Obviously, this is not as mobile as Zerg army with the Brood Lords, but here are the snipey boys. Snipey boys. Gotta snipe them all. Yeah, okay, well, the Brood Lords didn't work at all. Sometimes when the Brood Lords are attacking, I can't quite tell whether or not they're healing the opponent units or if they're dealing damage to them. A little hard to say. But here come the factories. Most of the damage that Brood Lords deal usually comes from friendly fire. So like siege tanks firing at you know, other units that have the little Broodlings on them. That is something that deals a lot of damage. Same for like Widow Mines and stuff. But the Brood Lords themselves always feel like a massive investment for very, very little. Well, Reynor is gonna double down. Oliveira also, though, doubling down right now with the mechanical units. I think he'll be pretty happy playing against this tech of choice, even though it's something that he won't be having as much practice against. This is a Ghost with a mission. When they have their hands on their sights like that. Alright, well, it got cancelled immediately, but he wanted to send the nuke on over. Good snipe right there by Reynor. Prepared for it this time around. Here we go, big fungal growth. Woo, lovely fungals here. Good parasitic bomb as well. Queen's in the mix too, dealing a bit of damage. But ultimately, nothing really died. Like, yeah, a couple units died, but a couple units have died. Ooh, Fleet Beacon coming up. Or the Terran Fleet Beacon, the Fusion Core. Building armor is actually also a really nice upgrade to have. Same for like high-sec auto-tracking. I think in this sort of setup for Terran, additional building armor. It's really sweet. Additional range on missile turrets and planetary. Really good as well. Oh, one cheeky little Widow Mine. He knew that those units would be clumped up. Oliveira's playing it really well. This setup over here on the right side of the map should be in favor of the Terran, although it's a little risky. Yeah, I think he can push this back eventually, but well, additional Banes are going to be joining in. Blinding, or that Banshee from the early game, man, it's trying to get biled down. These are Roaches and Ravagers going up against the Banshee. Those are leftovers. Those are the units that you find in the fridge after 2 weeks and you're like, oh god, I should probably toss them out. But they're still here. And they look good. They're now more or less decorative. You know what? There's not enough units here on the left side of the map. The Brood Lords are dealing quite a bit of damage. Again, siege tanks are dealing more damage, I think, than the Broods there. Okay, he unsieges the tanks. Okay, some aggression over here with the Liberator, though. Yeah, I find Brood Lords an awfully awkward unit these days. Here come the snipey boys. Pew, 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 pew. Fungal growth is a dangerous spell here, though. Gotta make sure that you don't accidentally get fungal. That expansion actually lives, even though there were basically no units here to defend against it. That mass repair there from the Terran looking really good. We have a big attack here, though, on the right side of the map. And these attacks right here from Reynor are lovely. The ghosts are also over here. That's the same group of ghosts. And upon scouting them, Reynor is once again moving in here on the left side of the map. But yeah, this is one of those setups where I can't quite tell whether or not the Brood Lords are healing the command center or if they're dealing damage to it. Oh no, they're dealing a little bit of damage. Oliveira didn't respond to it for a while. He doesn't need to. Here's the ghost once again showing up. Fungal! Oh, he's looking for fungal, but the range of fungal is obviously not what it once used to be. With these continued scans over here, Oliveira can see the infestors coming in from a mile away. Honestly, Oliveira is playing this exceptionally well. Brood Lords still continuing onwards on the left side of the map. I guess my main problem with late game TVZ right now is that it seems to require the Terran to make a mistake for the Zerg to be able to win. And if Terran plays close to perfection, which is what Oliveira is doing here, it seems like they have got everything shut down under lock and key. You know, like there's nothing that... like when you think about it on paper, I don't see what Zerg could do in this setup. Obviously, that's because Oliveira is playing exceptionally well. But in the past, Terrans used to make mistakes. But with the skill level, after, you know, 14 years of competition, still continuously going up. This is some phenomenal Terran gameplay. It seems like it's very difficult for Zerg to really achieve much. Now, of course, Reynor is in a really good position here. He's got everything he needs. He's got money for days, a massive bank, he's maxed out, good income, great upgrades. He's got everything. I would like to see some more flyer upgrades anyways, but... this is his army right now, and Oliveira will continuously still be improving his army for at least another couple minutes. Whereas Reynor has been sort of maxed out on the best army he can produce since like minute 12. And I guess that's kind of where these units fall short a little. Because Terran can get better, Zerg kind of idles, right? Now obviously a lot of it has to do with the map layouts. Terran knows very well how many bases they truly need to contest the Zerg. So what Reynor is trying to do is he's trying to take one of the bases that would ordinarily be one of the Terrans, be it the attack right over, or the base right over here on the right, or the one right over here on the left. Tactical nuke. I love the nukes here too, man. That's a really good addition. It's gonna force Reynor to retreat and give up the position. It rarely deals damage, but it's good to like get the positional advantage, of course. Okay. So maybe what I'm saying, right? Maybe we don't even really need a balance adjustment. Maybe we just need a new map pool. Maybe a new map pool would go a long way. Although that's also a very dangerous thing to suggest, because map pools can also be a little bit deceiving here. Could go the exact opposite. Okay. Finally, it looks like Reynor kills the base, but not because of the Brood Lords. No, sorry, lads. You guys did very little. Air upgrades coming up. Caduceus reactor coming up for Oliveira. Those late game upgrades, by the way, are really strong for Terran. It's one of the things that Zerg and Protoss don't really have so much, but there are like these type of upgrades. The same for like building armor, high-sec auto tracking, Liberator range. Like all of those upgrades are Terran exclusives. And yeah, they're powerful. They're very powerful. Okay. This is Oliveira's time to shine. He's been taking a beating on the left side of the map. He's taking a beating over on the right side of the map too. This expansion has been struggling though. Every time we see Oliveira trying to commit to a bunch of units on the left side of the map, his right side flank gets overwhelmed. Now he will be able to kill one of the bases of the Zerg, but at the same time he lost one of the bases here on the right side of the map. Well, at least some of the SCVs. The orbital command is up in the air. This time around, apparently the army has had enough. The army is going to try and march a little bit deeper onto the creep. And this is just a full Terran mech army right now with one medevac. Okay, no, never mind. We have about 20 ghosts or so hanging out here too. 18 of them in total. This is a really dangerous army. So this is where those Hellbats are super nice. The Brute Lords are... They deal damage on impact when the Broodlings first land, but then obviously also the Broodlings on the ground. They benefit from melee and from armor upgrades in the Evo chamber. That's fully upgraded, but the Hellbats here in the front are making very quick work of them. Oliveira actually carving through a lot of these bases, though. Okay, that was a good fungal growth. Another big fungal. This is what I was talking about, though. Big mistake right here from Oliveira. Clumping up all of those ghosts together. And that means that suddenly the ghost killed, that number has gone up. Lovely work right there by Reynor. He saw an opportunity and he immediately grabbed it. This is going to force Oliveira right now to retreat. There's really no way that he can continue fighting, but he did kill 3 bases here. He's got quite a bit of money in the bank, sure. But not quite enough to quickly remax, because this expansion in the top right-hand corner, it's been under a lot of pressure. That's exactly where Reynor has got his eyes set once more. Very little mining here throughout this game right now for Oliveira. We look at the income, I mean, there will be some mules mining right now, I'm sure, but... Not a ton of income right here for the Terran player. The Brute Lords have now made their way all the way towards the top right-hand corner. Siege tanks dealing a bunch of friendly fire. And maybe killing this planetary fortress is going to make this whole setup for Reynor a whole lot better. Zergling run by on the left side of the map. Great work right here by Reynor. Kills a few SCVs, runs away. Another command center, though, is flying on over in this direction. Oliveira is not sitting still in this game at all. I think he's saying, okay, I'm not going to try the right side of the map anymore. These SCVs are the last ones that will mine here. Now, new ghosts have shown up. Pew, 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 pew. I think he's given up on this base for the most part. He's got his eyes set right now on the left side of the map. We have a drone trying to turn into a hatchery. But that's going to be difficult with a command center still planted over there. And I think Reynor will be making short work of it. I think Oliveira should probably have evacuated this location. If you're not going to give it any attention... Yeah, 10 SCVs are going to die eventually. And we're going up against one of the best Zergs. It's usually sooner rather than later. Reynor is very fond of his Ling run-bys. Okay. Wouldn't be surprised even if Oliveira thinks about this base next. He's only got 34 workers, though. He's not really been adding a whole lot into the mix. He's got 6 orbitals, which is not a ton. We usually see quite a bit more than that. Reynor now taking one of those bases that has previously been mined by the Terran. And I wouldn't be surprised if Oliveira is going to be taking one over here that's been previously mined by the Zerg. Both players pretty much close to maxed out. Reynor, however, the player here with a much more significant bank. That bank is still looking mighty juicy. He's got good income. He lost some of his drones, but I don't actually mind it. He doesn't have that many mineral fields anyways, and it means that his army can ultimately get bigger. Trying to outmine the Terran is probably a little difficult at this point. Oliveira has been doing a great job in that department. Oliveira doesn't just want the left side of the map, though. He also wants to have the right side. As he's once more trying to see if he can secure that base. No council on the hedge. The Reynor ends up losing all of the resources that are part of it. We have ultimately what seems to be a spellcaster Brute Lord army here. So 4 infestors, 8 queens, a viper, and then a whole bunch of Ling Bane. I do think that the era for the Ling Bane is mostly over, though, because there's no more money to quickly replenish it, and that's where those units are usually quite good. Oliveira with a very strong army. If you look right now at the army value, yeah, you can still see that Zerg has got a lot more money spent on units. And that's why Oliveira is kind of struggling a bit. Now, he's left a couple of the Hellbats behind, which I think is really clever. It's been mostly Zergling run-bys. And obviously, Hellbats are pretty good, but here's those Ravagers from the early game. The leftovers in the back of the fridge. They're still here. And they're gonna deal a lot of damage. 32 SCVs go down. Only 6 workers remain right now for Oliveira. That means that his economy is, well, absolutely atrocious, but at the same time, he does have some of those units cornered. I don't know if he wants to draw his army all the way out there, but he does have some of this ground army here from the Zerg player cornered. Expansion in the top right, once again forced to lift off. A new hatchery is building in that location. He knows where these units are, though, and I think they're gonna have to, well, take the long route back home. Either that or fight to the death. So Oliveira did remake a few SCVs. Problem for him, he's mostly broke. Mules are gonna be absolutely critical at this point. 6 orbital commands still. I think landing this bad boy is probably a good idea, just to use some of the energy. Good abduction right there by Reynor, but not enough follow-up damage to be able to get it killed, for example, by the infestors or the spore crawlers or any corruptors that might be up in the air. There's 7 of them, but they're all over at the bottom of the map. A little bit afraid maybe of like a drop into the main base. Okay, hatchery once more gets shut down. Oliveira is slowing down the pace of the game a little bit. And I do really like how he's doing it. We have a lot of changelings here, hugging a Thor. It's gonna be difficult to move that bad boy around, but... well, this has become a super scrappy game, though. Tactical nuke. Once more on the production tab right here. The ghost number is looking really good again. 17 or so ghosts. Yeah, it seems like 15 to 20 ghosts is the ultimate number of ghosts that you want. Orbital command, by the way, he was looking for it. It did not get spotted because, well, the corruptors were flying on over in that direction. Reynor is once more going to try and see if he can secure a new base. He may not have a lot of mineral income, but he can go Brood Lord Infestor. And that is one of the classic Zerg unit compositions for the late game. Very powerful. But I think it'll also be his last unit composition, because there is simply not enough mining remaining in this game for it to be anything other than that. Oliveira actually setting up shop in a seemingly random spot, but he's protecting his bases over on the left side of the map. This is an expansion that is still mostly unmined. But with him setting up shop over there, though, it also sort of means that he's not going to be able to do much about this base here. Yeah, he can harass some drones, sure, he can shut down a little bit of it, but I don't think, unless he wants to commit a big chunk of his army, that he's going to be able to really shut down that base. Tactical nuke right over here. Not achieving much. Oliveira not fishing for anything lucky. But maybe sometimes you can, you know, accidentally kill the entire Zerg army. This planetary over here is not that useful. Just a positional advantage, I guess, is what Reynor is gaining here. 36 kills on that planetary, though. Not to be underestimated. There are 13 Brood Lords, 9 Corruptors, and now 18 Infestors. 3 Vipers, 8 Queens. This is a Zerg army that needs to be respected. One that is not easily killable. Oliveira's army, in the meantime, 17 Ghosts, 3 Liberators, 9 Thors, only 2 Siege Tanks. Huh. So it's mostly Thors and Hellbats here. 15 Hellbats in the mix too. Those Liberators and tanks are nice and all. They're mostly just here for zoning. The real meat and potatoes of this army is the Thor Ghost and then the Hellbat. Oop, he's looking for it. He actually does find a nice clump of Infestors here. And he's carving pretty fast through all of this creep. Needs to be careful that he doesn't accidentally find himself getting abducted and, well, removed out of the game, one piece at a time. Neural Parasite right there as well on one of the Thors. Blinding Cloud here on all of those units, but nothing really to prevent those Hellbats from, well, roasting up all of the Broodlings. The damage per second right here from Reynor is just a little bit low. There's a couple of Banes still in the mix, another Blinding Cloud here, but the Thors, they will certainly win the battle to the skies in a one-on-one engagement. Thors are accompanied right now as well with some snipes, my god. Woo, that looked like it was an amazing engagement for Reynor, and I think it was the best he was ever gonna get. But he could not take down that Terran army. It requires Zerg to remax again, and the Reynor just didn't have the money. And next up, we find ourselves on Alcyone. Very methodical gameplay from Oliveira. I see a lot of Terran players that get a little over-eager, right? They try to gobble up all of the different corners of the map a little too fast, a little too quickly. Oliveira is letting his opponent mine for a little bit, but then he's still coming after them eventually. He's not taking more expansions than he's got minerals for, like SCVs to mine for, right? So he's doing it pretty much as cleanly as you can. I'm hard-pressed to really find any mistakes from Oliveira. I feel like he got a bit over-eager at the end of that previous game. That fight wasn't quite ideal for him. Going down the ramp, getting the entire army fungled, getting the entire army blinding clouded, I mean, it seemed a little much. But at the same time, maybe he knew that his army was just simply superior to that of the Zerg. Because I don't think Reynor could have really found a better engagement. And maybe he looked at that game, he's like, yo, get out. I will just sit on the creep. I will give you a fight down the ramp. I will give you essentially the perfect opportunity. But that did seem a little bit over-eager to me, right? He probably should have chilled for just a little bit longer. Maybe scan, get rid of the creep, slowly engage it. There's really no reason to rush. But ultimately, he got the win. So does it really matter? Okay. Alcyone is next. What do you do now, Reynor? Where do we take this game now? It's once more a very normal build here from the Zerg. Nothing all too crazy. Will he once again open roaches? Will we see a link flood on the back of it? Will we have any sort of variety? I don't think the Broodlords were it, right? So, I like the Broodlords as like the ultimate unit composition. So when the map is starting to dry up and you don't really have much to make anymore, that's what I do like the Broodlord Infestor unit composition. I think that's probably the ultimate late game comp for Zerg that you can gain value with over time. But as like an early late game unit comp, right? Like a pre-25 minute unit composition, it does seem a little bit shaky. I'm never a huge fan of it at that point in the game. Like, ultimately, the planetary on the left side of the map died, but it was actually the Lingbane Ravager squad that killed the base. It wasn't actually the Broodlords. They're also very expensive as a fly heavy. I'm not sure. I don't really like the Broodlords right now. Okay. Do you change anything here as Oliveira? Ooh, he gets a drone kill. 2 kills now on that Reaper. I don't think you really change anything as Oliveira. Nope. I think you just do the same thing. Maybe go for an early game Banshee a little bit quicker, but I really like what he's doing overall. It's looking... So I can almost guarantee you that there will be people... I'll be uploading this series to YouTube, right? By the way, hit the like button. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. It helps a lot. But I can almost guarantee you that there will be people in the comment section that will be a little bit upset and maybe discussing balance in a very nice way. Yeah. People always discuss balance in my YouTube comment sections very politely, considering all of the other alternatives, and there will never be any complaining, right? Everybody is always very kind to one another. But ultimately, Oliveira is just playing a phenomenal series. Like, he's playing exceptionally well here. Not really making any mistakes. So, the only reason why it looks like Terran may be a little bit too strong here is because Oliveira is playing exceptionally good. Okay, so, quick Banshee, quick Cloak. We're gonna go Hellions, we're gonna go Banshees. Essentially, if you're struggling as Terran and you're going up against Zergs, what I recommend is you don't make mistakes and you just keep going. Yeah, you just keep going, you just hit, you know, the opponent in the face and you take a page out of Oliveira's book. Oliveira can sometimes be a little bit hit or miss. His consistency is not quite there in my mind compared to, for example, Amaru. But I do believe that Oliveira overall across the board is actually underrated. Even though he's been the world champion and stuff, I still feel like a lot of people don't actually rate him as highly as he deserves to be. He is certainly amongst the very best players in the world. It's gonna be a lair right now for Reynor. Will he go once more into Banelings? He didn't go for a Roach Warren this time around, so we're just going into the good old Zerglings. I'm assuming we're gonna see a Baneling nest and then Baneling speed. He could also go into a very quick Spire, I suppose, if he feels like he can get away with it, but it would be quite risky. Because if he doesn't get Baneling speed early on, he can die to a lot of Terran timing attacks. It looks like he's gonna go and stick around on just this for now. It's just Lings and Queens. Very interesting. Wait, what do we do? So there's no tech. No Overlord speed. Now we go Baneling Nest. Oh, he forgot. He probably assumed he already made it. He's going double upgrades right now. These are timed in such a way that he could have gone Baneling speed first. Now suddenly, though, this is a significant blunder. If Oliveira hits his opponent in the face with a timing attack, which admittedly he hasn't really gone for in this series, but if he would go for like a triple command center all in, how many barracks do we have? We've got 5 right now. If he makes 3 more rather than a 4th command center, he could deal a tremendous amount of damage to this Zerg. But it looks like Reynor is going to be able to escape. Baneling speed is such a pivotal upgrade. Because without it, it's really hard to hold any sort of push. So there it is. Yeah, he just simply forgot. Normally you build this as the lair is maybe like a third or so of the way done. Everything else is going well. It's a small mistake, but one that could have very significant results. Second factory. A little bit quicker this game. No 4CC yet. Hydra then coming up too. So this will be Hydraling Bane straight up right here from Reynor. Not really focused on maybe Brood Lords, or sorry, maybe Lurkers, but not really focused on Brood Lords, that's for sure. And then also not really anything like super cheesy. Like I would say that this is probably the best, most reliable Zerg build against Terran. But it's also a very macro-focused style, so automatically it kind of leads towards the late game again. All right, Oliveira. Happy to play the late game if he needs to. Gets a couple workers. Goes into the 2-2 upgrades. He's cruising, man. 4th command center coming up. Yeah, it's very confident gameplay. You can kind of see Reynor running around, right? The house is burning down and he's trying his very best to grab all of his possessions, and he's trying to fit it all in one rucksack, and he's trying to stay alive, whereas Oliveira is just calm and stoic and just slowly progressing throughout the game, not really making any mistakes thus far. Drilling Claws coming up. We're gonna go into some additional Liberators. He's got 1 siege tank only. On this map, apparently, we don't really feel like we need too many tanks. Great stuff here, man. Like, Oliveira is playing out of his mind good. Oliveira is also very much so a momentum-based player. I mean this in like the sense of a series. So usually when he wins game number 1, he tends to win game number 2. When he wins game number 2, he tends to win game number 3. But I think he can be maybe sometimes a little bit, maybe a bit emotional, or maybe like if he loses game number 1, he like stops believing in himself for a bit. But when Oliveira gets going, and when things are going well, usually they keep going really, really well for him. Okay. Bit of aggression over here. Quite a large army, though, for Terran. Good splits right here off creep. I don't think there's enough Terran, though, to get the kill on this base. Reinforcing Zerg units are showing up, and this is indeed, by the way, a transition right now from the Zerg player towards that Lurker-based army. So Hydraling Bane into Lurkers. 4th command center in the meantime has been set up. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now coming up for Ollie. They will get tech labs on them. And if we don't have a Ghost Academy yet already, we don't. We'll probably see one coming up here very, very soon. Oh, maybe he does have enough to kill this base after all. The reinforcing unit showing up. It's not a lot of siege tanks, but it's enough. Push over here inside of the natural expansion of the Zerg player too. This is falling flat on its face. Can he at least get the kill on this base? Yeah, he will. That base is as good as dead. Calm and collected, man. No rush. I would have clicked that base 7 minutes ago. And with minutes, I mean seconds. But I would I would have right-clicked it a while ago. But he knew it was dead. There was no reason to rush. Alright. Reynor has decided to put all of his eggs in one basket. And the basket is a Nidus worm. Yeah. You know that story of the girl with the Red Riding Hood? She's taking a basket to grandma. In this game, the basket is a Nidus worm. And I guess the wolf are lurkers. The analogy is not great, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's a dangerous push here from Reynor. He will probably try to send an overseer around. Yep. This guy is on a very slow track. Overlord speed is not researched, and he's gonna go straight through the zone. Look at Oliveira. Already set up and ready. He is prepared. He's gonna accidentally scout this with a command center here. Lurkers will be able to pop inside of the worm. Now, where is the worm going to go? That's my question. I don't know where to put the worm. But that might be a me issue. The aggression here for Oliveira continues, though. And he will be able to shut down whatever expansion he needs. No cancel on that base, so that's the full 300 minerals down the drain, plus the cost of the drone. A lot of the Zerg units are still inside of that Nidus network, and there's really nothing that Zerg is getting out of them right now. Hatchery re-secured right over here at the golden base. We have a couple of changelings drop down, fair enough. He's gonna try. This is the most dangerous attack ever, man. Oliveira should be able to shut this down with ease, but sometimes we see these these Nidus worms getting so much value in. I wonder if he should just unload, but apparently we're gonna send it into the main base. Is there anything in time here for Oliveira to defend against it? There's a couple of Widow Mines. Good splits right there by Reynor. There are a few Terran units available, but this is one of those weird situations when you've been maxed out for a while, you might not actually have enough. Nidus worm in the main base does get shut down, though. We have a changeling at the back of the natural expansion providing vision, and SCVs are going to be pulled to deal damage over here. They don't really deal a lot of damage. But this could still be a bit annoying. They're going to go after the changeling, so this could be the last worm that Reynor is going to be able to get up. I mean, it's a bit costly here for the Terran, I'm not going to lie. But it's not quite the value that Reynor was dreaming of, but still much better than I actually thought it was going to be when he first sent the Overseer towards the top left-hand corner. Reinforcing Terran units are coming up. And they will be able to shut this down eventually. Look at the SCVs getting healed here by the Medivacs. I mean, most of the bio units are actually gone now. The units are still going to town. In the meantime, there's a Zergling run by over at the third base as well. Maybe this distraction has actually been good enough right here from Reynor. He's been getting a ton of value out of that Lurker push. Ghosts are getting surrounded, but some of them got picked up and saved by the Medivacs. Alright, and despite taking a ton of damage at home, Reynor is dealing a ton of damage right now to the Terran. Another Nidus worm will go into the main base, and that, well, hypermobility here of the Zerg is once again working in their favor. There is a planetary over here and a really lovely bit of SimCity. I don't think it's going to be easy here for Reynor to push in. He does deal with one of the Widow Mines reasonably well. There's a Viper right now in the mix too. Still a lot of mines, by the way, and siege tanks on the other side of the map too to just grab whatever reinforcement Zerg is trying to send across the map. Planetary here did get denied for a little bit, but it's all acceptable. Okay, great split right there on that Medivac. Nidus worm back in the main base. We have a Marauder right next to it. Another planetary fortress is being set up in the meantime, by the way, over at the golden mineral line for the Terran player. Nidus in the main base did get denied, and it looks like the Widow Mines are being sacrificed, but most of the siege tanks are gonna be able to make the long trek back home. Great game. I thought Oliveira was coasting to the victory, but that Nidus worm really made the game a whole lot more difficult for him. He did not quite deal with that optimally, and it's allowing Reynor another opportunity, and Reynor is thinking, you know what, I've had my foot on the gas, let me continue going. There is one Marauder in the main base, though, set up here for sniping these units. Just one Marauder seems a little overly ambitious, but apparently he's going to be able to get the job done once more. The aggression is continuing over here. We've already seen a fight in this section of the map, and that ultimately resulted in the Terran getting the kill on the gold. Looks like another Nidus Worm, by the way, did get denied on the side of the Terran. Concussive shells are researching right now for Oliveira, one of the upgrades he accidentally forgot about. More vision provided right here by the Overseer, though, and it's going to pop a Nidus Worm inside of the natural. This is, okay, another worm in the far top left. Planetary did finish up over here, but Reynor wants more. He doesn't want just a slice. He wants to get all the bases, and I guess we're going to unload over here and continue killing that Planetary here in just a moment. Looks like Oliveira does have a bit of a weakness. Yeah. It's not a lot, but Lurkers and Nidus Worms, they require a lot of your attention, and if in the meantime you're fighting on the other side of the map, it's really difficult to look away from your units, because you might just get fungled or bane-linked or whatever else. Even off creep. It's looking a lot better now, though. Over the last minute or two, the first wave of Lurkers was dangerous. These follow-ups have been quite expensive. 9 Nidus Worms, though, have gone down. They are not free. Zerg pays for every single one of them. This is kind of like 9 tactical nukes that have flown around the map, and I don't think, I don't think it's something you need to forget about, because they are certainly something that costs the Zerg quite a bit. This is a retreating Nidus Worm right now. You'll love to see it. A Rottling Bane together with one Viper set up at the bottom corner of the map. Nidus Worm over here too. Lurkers are going to try and see if they can make their way over there. More Lurkers have shown up. This is 19 Lurkers right now. The ghost numbers are growing, though. We now have 14 of them. I think these Lurkers will probably try to see if they can make their way through the worm. Are we really not going to try and retreat? Oh, Reynor decides to stand his ground. Maybe he's going to be able to kill that orbital command. In the meantime, we have a blinding cloud over on the siege tanks. Zerglings trying their very best, but it looks like there's enough units here from Oliveira. Impressive positioning right here on that Terran army. It's very tempting to send everything you've got towards those Lurkers when you're under pressure like that. But Oliveira using the Snipey Boys instead, and he's going to be able to kill that golden base a third time. Ghosts are mostly out of energy right now. They will accumulate it again, of course, but it looks like the Planetary will probably pay the price in the meantime, although I say that. Another one of them does get sniped. Ultimately, though, with the supply count of the Zerg player dwindling and the economy getting shut down over and over and over again, it's Oliveira who wins the series 3-0 against the, well, one of the world's greatest Zergs. The only real problem that Oliveira ran into in this series were those Nidus Worms in this game. Insane. Very well done right here by the Chinese Terran.